Sacramento. Now, I think, James, you were telling me earlier that they had great conversations at the NBA draft combine with a lot of the top prospects.
Yeah, they at least had a couple of top prospects in during the combine and sat down and talked to them.
Now, if they do try to move up into that first round, you have to target someone. Now, what would that look like? Right? I think there's a couple avenues here. I think the most obvious one is your most tradable player, which Kenny Caraway has talked about multiple times on this show and on his show, D'Lo and KC, when it comes to Domantas Sabonis. I think that's the person you have to look at and say that's a tradable piece for a first round pick. Where he goes, I think that's the question right now, and where would that fit in moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's tough because there's no guarantee that you're going to get a quality rotational player, even if you're in the top 10. You have no idea like what you're getting. Like I can go through every single NBA draft and name 2 or 3 complete busts in the top 10. So you want to make sure that you're not one of the teams that select one of those guys that just completely busts out and doesn't help you, right? Secondly, I don't know that, like specifically in this draft, unless you're in the top 3, that you're really looking at a player that you think will ever even come close to the heights that Domantas Sabonis has reached. So I'm going to need multiple first-round picks, or I'm going to need a very nice first-round pick and some very high-quality rotational players. And either way, like when you're dealing with a salary like Domas, which is $44 million, like you're going to have to take back at least like ballpark figure 36, 37 million bucks back in salary.
And you could also add another trade piece with that from the Kings. It's not like it has to be just Domas. You could pair Domas with someone to get,
of course,
to get a bigger salary plus draft picks, but or to get more draft picks if you're thinking with players and multiple draft picks as well.
Yeah, it's just tough because we're always caught in this, like, what exactly is Scott Perry's vision here? Is it to build a winner now? Is it to reboot completely? Is it just to remake the roster in your image and sort of, we hear this all the time, Scott Perry completely flipped the Knicks roster in one year. Like, I think that can happen here. And I think people should be prepared for that. They should be prepared for, like, let's just go back to, like, the days leading up to the trade deadline. Like, we got on the air and started telling you that there's a good possibility that De'Aaron Fox would no longer be in Sacramento in the coming days and weeks. D'Lo and KC came on the air and gave even more of that. And midway through their show, Shams Charania went out and said, hey, don't be surprised if De'Aaron Fox gets traded. Like, we were on top of that. But that also shows you, like, a way in which, like, we start hearing things. We're trying to tell you, like, hey, things are happening here, and don't get too attached to any player. Right? If you're a Kings fan and you've got a young Kings fan in your home right now, today, do not go to the team store and go buy a jersey.
No, I would wait for that. No. I would strongly recommend to wait for that.
I would because when the dust settles in this specific offseason, I don't know who will be left standing.
No,
I mean,
I know this. When you look at what Scott's doing, I think he's taking a broad view of this whole entire thing.
Yep.
Looking at everything, and I'm not just saying the roster, but looking at the NBA and saying who's available, who might become available, what does this direction look like? You said a great point there, James, where it says he flipped the Knicks in 1 year. I think when Scott looks at this roster, I think he sees a lot of tradable pieces, and he also thinks he sees a roster that doesn't work together of how it's constructed.
No.
It's very important to be able to put together a roster where everyone knows their role. If we rolled back with this team this next year for 2025-26, I don't know how Doug Christie is going to put this team together and what everyone's role would be. That's why I think when you look at what Scott's doing, Scott's going to take a big view of everything. How do I put together the team I want to put together, which is going to be, of course, defense, hardworking, tough guy.
Yep.
And then on top of that, okay, where does our point scoring come from? Is it going to be a ball-dominant point guard? Is it going to be a forward? Are we going to play a big man game? Those are the big questions we're asking.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too because Doug Christie is going to have a certain amount of say in like what players are there and what are not. Because the one true person that you have that can help Scott Perry assess the roster and who is there currently is Doug.
Of course.
Doug has been there long term, and he, as an assistant, but now as a head coach, and he has a really good understanding of who he can trust, who he can't on the court, what he needs, and what Scott needs to deliver on. But on top of that, like there has to be an identity to this team. And that's why we've been focusing on the point guard so heavily. Not only did Doug Christie say it, and Demonis Sabonis just like flat out said, we have to get a point guard. But
I'm quick with that. I've never seen Domas have a quicker answer than that.
Yeah, there was that time when we were at his basketball camp and he said, yeah, we had a couple of deals fall through already. So it's really good to get DeMar DeRozan because at least the deal didn't fall through. So that was like Domas has a way of being like super honest, even when I don't even think he's trying to be super honest.
Agreed.
So there was that, but also Scott Perry shows up first day like, hey, we need a point guard. We need a point guard over here. I mean, that's like everyone knows. So that's why we've been hyper focused on the point guard position. It's why we've gone through all of these layers of stuff. It's why when we start talking about a player that may or may not have the Kings may not have already built a framework for a deal. Like framework for a deal can be a thing, but then that can change very quickly when a general manager goes, yeah, I'm not really in on Trae Young. I'm not really in on player XYZ. So that's why when we're discussing these things, we're always discussing them in a way in which we're not reporting anything as much as we are like giving an assessment of what it would look like if they were to go make a move, right? We have like between Jake and I, we have a ton of information here that we can report on. Like I can tell you that I have heard very specifically that Scott Perry is out on Trae Young. He's not interested. Now that doesn't mean that deal doesn't happen eventually, because you could strike out on a bunch of other deals and then come back around to that and go, okay, I guess we can figure this one out. I think one of the problems is not only Trae Young doesn't play defense, but the second problem with Trae Young is the second he lands wherever he's going to land, if he's traded from the Hawks, he wants his money. And that extension that he's going to get this summer is going to be massive. And you're tying yourself to Trae Young if that's the move you make. And it's why he might be available, because Atlanta is sitting here doing the same exact thing. Not sure if they're ready to commit to another, $260 million over a 4-year extension for Trae Young.
But you want a backcourt of Young and Levine? Where's the defense, James?
That doesn't work at all.
Where's the defense?
That's what I keep saying.
We got to put a bolo out for the defense.
That's right. Well, I'll bring this up though. You say you got to put a bolo out for defense. I think the easiest way to solve your defensive issues alongside Zach LaVine, because we can talk about, whether you're going to go chase like LaMelo, or you're going to go see if John Morant's available, or you're going to go see if, again, Trae Young is available. The guy who fits most naturally next to a guy like Zach LaVine, a guy who actually plays defense at the point guard position, is Jrue Holiday. But he's 35. He's owed $104 million over the next 3 years. And you're hearing some things on that one as well.
Yeah, no, I think out of my contacts that I have back on the East Coast, that Jrue Holiday deal, the Kings checked in on him and wanted to see what the price is worth and everything like that. From my understanding, Boston has better offers than what the Kings are offering.
Okay.
And I think when you look at that, that does make sense, because what are you really giving up for Jrue Holiday when you're the Kings compared to what another team like, I don't know, maybe a Houston? I know Fred VanVleet wasn't that great in the playoff series. Do you want a more veteran guy that runs that Houston offense?
Okay.
If you're looking at another team, okay. The Clippers is another possibility that I could see. I know James Harden's mainly that point guard there, but again,
but Jrue can play off ball.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
I think when you look at what the Kings are offering, I don't think it's probably going to be a name that we've heard about a lot right now. James is Devin Carter being out there, and I think if you're looking at Jrue Holiday for Devin Carter and some picks, don't know if that's that's enticing right now. And I think you'd have to do more. I think it's a Keon Ellis is part of that deal possibly. You could look at Keegan Murray possibly. They want to get younger and cheaper. That's the key on this. And that's if you're Boston, I just don't think they like that deal that the Kings are given. And I know for a fact that they've gotten better offers in it.
Okay. So mark another guy off your list.
Yes.
So, all right. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to maybe knock a few more people off the list, maybe add a few more people to the point guard list. We're the Insiders here on ESPN 1320. I'm James Ham.
Jake Gaden.
Jake Gaden from CBS 13 and Joe Brazil behind the glass. See you in just a minute.